Now, of all the people that you would expect would have a problem with the dick comments and the coarsening of our language, you might put Bill O'Reilly at the top of that list because, of course, this is the guy who writes books about how the left is so vulgar and rap music has to talk about sex and how could they do these things. So let's see what he thought about Trump's comments at last night's debate in this conversation with Bernie Goldberg.
Donald Trump said something that I can't say on this channel what he really meant when he talked about the size of a particular body part, because that would be vulgar. But Donald Trump said it. I can't say it, but Donald Trump said it, and he's running for president of the United States. And he didn't only say it on national television, he said it during a presidential debate. Now, Bill, I know you care about kids. You've talked about that a lot. Imagine if a family is watching this debate with their 12-year-old daughter, and she said, what did he mean by that about size and there's no... Is there anything that would embarrass his supporters, mainly his supporters on conservative television, radio?
I see it differently. I didn't take offense by it. I think Trump is doing what he always does, appealing to regular people, playing off the Rubio thing. So if you're going to criticize Trump, you got to criticize Rubio. He did it first.
Do you realize what he said? Do you realize what he said?
Of course I realize what he said,
right,
but it was done in a jocular way.
Yeah, well,
I wouldn't say what he said. I mean, it's not my style. No, but I know what I know what he's doing. It's a different era. It's a different time. He's running for president as a populist, not a Republican or a Democrat.
How come you're so concerned, as you rightly should be, about the coarsening of the culture? You always talk about that and how crude and vulgar we're getting.
Look, you saw what Trump said to me. You saw what Trump said to me at the top of the program. I'm a negative guy now in his mind. All right, I probably won't even get him to come in anymore. But I'm fair, and I didn't think that was that big a deal.
Okay, there he accidentally just
revealed why he's being that way.
Yeah, that's right. So there's two different elements to this, right? One is what he just admitted, which is I got to get him back on the show. So whatever Trump does, I'm going to say is totally fine, right? I'm going to give it every excuse. Secondly, when, to be fair to Bill O'Reilly, when other people coarsen the culture, they're black.
Yeah.
And so that's really bad. So if they're doing their rap music, it's all black culture that coarsens our. But when white people do it in Scarface or Godfather, that's good
art.
Classic movies.
Yeah, it's not like a Beyonce video.
Or like,
that's
Where's
what's
My
wrong
Car?
with America. Beyonce video.
When a Republican presidential candidate is talking about his cock, okay, that's awesome for America and our culture. When a black person does a rap,
they don't have good parents.
Yeah. Well, it's both.
Where are the fathers?
It's both a racial thing. It's a political thing. Like, they're totally fine with conservatives. How many conservative politicians and radio hosts have had 5 marriages?
Yeah,
they don't care about that. David Vitter comes back and they clap for him. But I thought you didn't like prostitution.
Hey, so he says you say it. Well, it's not my style. Yeah, because my style is where my morals are. situational. My style is sexually abused by producers with a little falafel and some Mediterranean food and a loofah. That's, he goes, I know you care about kids. Of course I care about kids. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Most of the time I spend with my kids are court-ordered. Come on, I love my kids.
I'm not touching that.
So, but look, part of that is fair. I did a segment on that earlier in the week. So O'Reilly now has lost custody of his kids to his ex-wife. And I don't want to get into all the nitty-gritty of that. I wouldn't get into their personal lives at all if they weren't such enormous hypocrites and yelling at a certain section of the population about their family values and their culture and all that stuff, and asking where are the fathers. When one of the court statements from the judge said, like, it turns out Bill O'Reilly hired someone to basically do the parenting for him. Like, they were supposed to have a psychiatrist to help with a therapist and all this stuff. And O'Reilly's like, yeah, you handle the kids, right? Where are the fathers? But the reason I bring it up in this context is he wanted to have, that was a nice Chris Christie moment. He wanted to have his marriage annulled. Even though it was for 15 years. Okay.
Yes.
So annulled in this insane Catholic thing is, well, you're not allowed to get divorced, but I got to cheat, right? I can't, I want a divorce, right? Because I've got all these different problems in my marriage, right? So now I yell at gay people all the time for not following the Bible. But when I don't follow the Bible, my morality is situational, and it annoys me to have to follow it. So I'm going to, an annulment is where you pretend the marriage didn't even happen. So I'm going to pretend that my 15-year marriage that produced 2 kids didn't happen.
So now what are your kids, bastards? Because that
they would be.
Because I grew up Catholic, so I know. So what he's saying, what an annulment is according to Bill O'Reilly, is that your wife is such a huge whore, even Jesus agrees. If you pay enough money, that's what happens. And that's all about money paying to the church. You're not going to get an annulment unless you throw a lot of cash at the church. And I'm sure there's a number you got to hit, and I'm sure he hit it, and then they get the annulment. They don't even bury you in the church if you don't make weekly donations. I know that firsthand. So that's how you get an annulment. Poor people don't get annulment. You know who gets annulments? Rich hypocrites.
And he even apparently has given so much money to the church that he got his church leader to write a letter against his wife. Yeah, this guy who got caught on tape masturbating to his producers when she didn't want to. She's like, well, what are you doing, Bill? And he's like, I want to rub falafels all over you and stuff. You hear him on all this stuff, right? And then he gets the priest to be like, it's her fault. Yeah. Write her a letter yelling at her for being a bad Catholic.
Well,
right?
Cenk, to be
fair, that's his family values.